Sweep picking is one of those techniques that looks so effortless when really great players do it, but when we do it, it can just feel impossible. When you try it yourself, notes just start blurring together, strings start ringing out, and nothing seems to work. Everything collapses and it just feels tense. Most people think the problem is speed or coordination, but that is probably not the case. Sweep picking usually fails for a much simpler reason. It's the fact that your sweeps probably aren't chunked as one motion. Sweep picking isn't really fast alternate or economy picking pushed to the absolute extreme, no matter what Ingve will tell you.
It's not sweep picking.
What it is a motor passion which should be one motion. But first, why should you listen to me? I'm just a random guy on the internet. I may have only been playing guitar for a year, but my knowledge of neuroscience has really pushed my progress of learning, and the entire point of this channel is to use that point of neuroscience to make you a much better player. Take my sweeping for example. After a year, I've managed to do this. And yes, it may not be the fastest, it may not be the cleanest, but I think that's good for a year of work. At its core, sweep picking is much more like strumming than it is picking. The pick doesn't stop in between each string. It travels in one smooth continuous motion, hence sweep picking. It's your pick undergoing one smooth continuous sweeping motion, while your fretting hand changes the notes that's being played underneath it. If you think of every separate string as a different picking stroke, sweep picking is bound to be tense and unreliable, and the goal should be making your brain know one uninterrupted motion, and just letting everything else adapt around it. When sweep picking works, when you're sweeping, your pick is just gliding through the notes and just letting it happen, as opposed to playing each note and making 12 different motions going up and then 12 different ones going down. Because that's a big hassle and no one wants big hassle. So, why does most sweep practice not translate directly to speed? A big problem is that slow practice builds these motions up at a slow practice rate. A common mistake when practicing is just practicing at slower speed and trying to scale that up. When you're practicing slowly, you're building up specific mechanisms that allow you to play something slowly. And playing slowly, you can allow for mistakes. Your pick can have a break in between hitting each strings instead of just doing one motion. Your hands can have slight timing errors, or your hands can make bigger movements than they need to do. And that's okay, because at slow speeds, it doesn't matter if you make the small mistakes. But when you try and scale that up more, those motions are very inefficient. And what we need to play fast is efficiency and consistency. That version of the motion might sound clean at small speeds, but it's not the same motion that you need when you're going up in tempo. You need to have tighter movements, tighter timing, and all around better coordination. Something that you don't learn from playing slowly. It's like trying to fit a square into the circle hole. For some reason it just won't go in. But this is something I go into a lot more depth about in my plateau video, something you can watch right there. If you want to get better at breaking your plateaus, that video is absolutely perfect and everything you need without all the bunch of the crap that other people add in. But anyways, when we're sweeping, the problem usually isn't the sweeping hand, it's the hand that's fretting underneath it, which causes a real challenge. Most people focus on the picking hand because it is sweep picking after all. But the sweep picking usually fails because of your other hand. Each note has to be released at a very specific time. If you release too late, the notes overlap. If you release too early, then you get extra noise that you don't want. And the thing about sweep picking is that it's practically just a muting technique disguising itself as a picking technique. Because you're turning notes off just as much as you're turning them on. And as guitarists, we probably struggle at turning things on. Anyways, I digress. Clean sweeps come from controlled relaxation and muting the notes that we're not playing by making sure we're releasing at the right time and muting at the right time. And as I said before, economy of motion is incredibly important when playing at higher speeds. Good sweeping uses really small movements. Look at those really technical players. Their hands barely move, making it look super easy. Then we try it, and it's not that easy. And their pick barely goes into the strings at all. And their fretting hand practically doesn't move. And so when we play and have excessive motion, that usually creates noise and it creates timing errors and things that we don't want when playing. If sweeping feels difficult, the issue might be that you've not got that economy of motion there. And I'm not talking, oh, your fingers must be a millimeter away from the strings. Even small movements, it can make the world of difference, I promise you. But let's talk about what I spoke about at the very, very start of this video. Chunking, or putting things into one motion. Sweep picking becomes truly reliable when you think of it as one motion as opposed to 100 different ones. Instead of thinking, oh, I need to play this fret on this string, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one, and then. Your brain needs to think of it as, playing that shape. Probably not going, as it does it. Once a shape is chunked, that motion becomes completely predictable, and predictability is your best friend when it comes to playing, because it makes you a more reliable player. And this reliability allows you to build up speed, something that we all probably want as musicians. And if you don't want it, you're probably lying to yourself. But anyways, I digress. This is why once you know all the shapes that you need to know, you can just move between them and it feels so satisfying. If you don't believe me, try and learn Serrano. The thing I played at the start of this video is so satisfying once you can play it properly. And also, Jason Becker is amazing. We all love him. If you don't, get out. No, it's alright, you can stay. Slow practice is good, but only when it's done the right way. And by doing it the right way, I mean perfectly mirroring what the fast playing is going to be like. That means no stopping the pick in between strings, even if it's really short amount of times. And also not exaggerating your actual movements. Even at slow tempos, you should be minimizing your movements to make sure you're able to push it as far as you can. And also, if you're playing slowly, but you're playing inconsistently and doing different things every time you play slowly, then your brain is going to get really confused and it's not going to know which the right one is. And that's really weird to say because you can think, okay, I need to do this, but your brain doesn't know it that way. Your brain just knows what your fingers are doing, which is a really weird thing because your brain is what's thinking I can do this. Just take it as fact as opposed to understanding it. So, how can we use these fast practicing to make sure that our sweeping can be really good and get to that next level? Next level. And that's where speed bursts come into play. Especially in recent videos, I've talked about speed bursting a lot. And that's because it is such a vital part that can improve your playing so much. Short bursts are especially good for training your fast twitch fibers, something I'll talk about in my next video. Because these bursts force synchronization between your hands. Instead of practicing long, endless arpeggios, doing short fragments of these arpeggios at very high speeds, again, short fragments, can train your brain to coordinate a lot better. Because it kind of has to. Once those fragments feel natural, you can start putting them together like Lego. And, come on, if you're watching this video, you're probably a dude. But even if you're a girl, we all love Lego. And so if we can put these fragments together, we can make a long chain, and then boom, you can sweep like Jason Becker, like all of these amazing people. And at this stage, your sweeping will just feel automatic, and you won't think of it as, oh, play these notes. You'll just think of it as shape, which is so much easier for your brain to cope with. Which means you can play more, you can play longer, you can play better, you can do all of these things. Which makes you a much better sweeper. Let's talk about specific mechanics in specific shapes, because they do change with shape, as you would know. Many sweeping shapes require one finger to fret multiple notes next to each other. And this can cause a lot of hassle, because you shouldn't be treating it as a bar, but more like a roll. Because if you're treating it like a bar, the notes are just going to ring out and then that's a chord, which isn't an arpeggio. What you do with a roll is you make sure you control your mutes with that finger, which if I try to explain, I'll probably make it way more difficult than it has to be. And it's where one finger slightly leans into the fret and plays it while muting the other strings. And then when you need to get to the next note, you kind of roll it. It's hard to explain without doing. You kind of roll it and fret the next note while muting the note that you've just played. And this motion is incredibly essential when you want to play something really cleanly. And it's also another reason why guitar, especially sweeping, is more about control than it is about strength. Learning to do this rolling motion effectively solves so many sweep problems that you probably will have. So, let's talk about why sweeping can be inconsistent. Sweeping can be incredibly inconsistent because of very sensitive timing errors. A delay, even when it's a few milliseconds, can make you panic, and then you'll make more mistakes, and then everything will go out of control. And that sensitivity can be frustrating. But what your brain is doing is trying to refine that motion so that doesn't happen. And inconsistency is just you needing to be able to actually understand the Inconsistency is your brain just needing to define what that mechanism is that you need to actually do. Once you have that mechanic on lockdown and muscle memory, boom, you can go on forever. So how can we actually structure our sweeping practice? Sweeping practice happens best when it's short and specific. If you spend time on one specific shape in one specific direction, it will do so much better than if you just play all of them together and try and link it all together and it just gets all haywire. When you focus on that clarity, getting in specific directions on specific shapes, then those fragments will be able to be put together a lot easier. And then once you can do that, rotating between the shapes while you're playing, that's like sliding up when you're on the top note into a different shape or sliding down to a different shape, can create motor cortex flexibility, which makes you a lot more reliable when it comes to sweeping. And also, when we're practicing it, we want it to be musical, because that's music. Sweep picking shouldn't live in isolation, it should be incorporated into what we're playing. Arpeggios are harmony, they're not just technique. Sweeps can outline chord changes or make a harmony sound a lot better. And also, when you add this technique in creatively into what you're playing, not only will it make your playing sound a lot better, but it'll also improve your sweeping because you're actually enjoying it and you'll be able to use it in an actual context, as opposed to just being one of those technical players that can't do anything creative. Technique will stick better when it's done creatively. But anyways, sweeping isn't about brute force. And it's not about grinding at a metronome for It's not about grinding at a metronome for hours and hours and hours on end. It's about teaching your brain one clean, specific motion for each shape. When that motion's done right, the speed will just naturally fall into your hands. If sweep picking feels impossible right now, that does not mean you can't be a sweep picker. It just means your motor program hasn't yet chunked it into a specific motion, or you don't have a motion that's applicable to higher speeds. Once that has happened, it feels completely effortless. But anyways, that's enough yapping from me. Make sure to like and subscribe because these videos do take a while to do. And make sure you always bite the bullet because if it hits you elsewhere, that'll be dangerous. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.